There is a dark force that surrounds a narcissist, one that does not just haunt you in waking life but follows you into your sleep, paralyzing you in terror. A lot of survivors report being held down by an unseen presence, unable to move or scream, while a shadowy entity looms over them. This is no ordinary nightmare. It's a chilling experience that feels all too real. But why do narcissistic abuse survivors experience sleep paralysis at such alarming rates? Is this a mere psychological response to trauma, or could there be something far more sinister at play? Let's find out. I am Danish, a narcissistic abuse recovery professional. Today, we are going to explore the weird link between narcissistic abuse and sleep paralysis. In this deep exploration, we will first dissect the psychological roots of sleep paralysis as a trauma response in this context, and then move into the supernatural experiences that a lot of people, including myself, have endured. From childhood, I was tormented by an entity that would approach me in the night, rendering me paralyzed in my own body. It never spoke, but its presence was suffocating, almost as if it fed off my fear. Want to know more? Stay until the very end. Let's first touch on trauma. As a survivor of narcissistic abuse, you know what it feels like to live in a constant state of stress, don't you? Your nervous system has been deeply affected and impacted. That's why you struggle to regulate your body's natural responses to threats. When you endure prolonged emotional, psychological, and even physical abuse, your nervous system becomes totally dysregulated. Your body stays on high alert even when no immediate danger is present. This chronic stress can manifest in a lot of ways, including the terrifying experience of sleep paralysis that we're talking about today. Basically, your brain never sleeps. Narcissistic abuse keeps you in a constant state of hypervigilance. The unpredictable mood swings of the narcissist, their gaslighting and emotional torment create an internal as well as external environment where safety is never guaranteed. As a child, growing up in such an atmosphere meant that my body never truly rested. I was always on guard, subconsciously bracing myself for the next wave of chaos. Even when I fell asleep, my nervous system remained hyper-aware, unable to fully surrender to restorative sleep. Sleep paralysis is linked to a disrupted sleep cycle, particularly an inability to transition smoothly between sleep stages. For those with extreme trauma like yourself, the brain remains semi-alert even in REM sleep, making it more likely to experience sleep paralysis. The sensation of being watched, of a presence creeping toward you, may not be an external force at all, but rather the brain's way of processing unresolved fear. The body is paralyzed in sleep, but the mind remains stuck in a hypervigilant state, creating the presence of that dark figure approaching you, possibly something that is shaped by your past terror. As a certified clinical trauma specialist, I can tell you this. One of the most significant trauma responses that occurs during narcissistic abuse and even after is the freeze response. When escape is impossible and fighting back is dangerous, the body shuts down, dissociates, and enters a state of immobility, or in clinical terms, dorsal vagal activation. This is why when you are faced with confrontation, you feel incapable to react. You struggle to form words or to even move, literally. So sleep paralysis mimics this exact response. It is a moment where the body is trapped, unable to move, just as it was once in waking life under the control of that narcissist. The helplessness experienced during sleep paralysis mirrors the helplessness of being trapped in an abusive environment, which is why it is no surprise to me that a lot of survivors of narcissistic abuse report frequent episodes of sleep paralysis. They say, oh, my body carries the imprint of past trauma and it finds its expression in terrifying ways. There is a famous book called Your Body Keeps the Score. You may already know about this, by Bessel van der Kolk. It is an excellent resource if you want to understand how your body reacts to trauma. Now let's come to the spiritual side, my favorite side. While science offers explanations for sleep paralysis rooted in psychology, many who have experienced it, including myself, believe there is something much darker involved. I have openly talked about the relationship between narcissists and demons in multiple episodes. I firmly believe that those shadowy figures, those entities, the oppressive presences you encounter during an episode of sleep paralysis aren't just hallucinations but evil entities surrounding the narcissist. These are not mere products of an overactive imagination, they are real. For me, the experience was always the same. From childhood, I would sense the presence before it even arrived, a shift in the atmosphere, an invisible weight pressing down on the room. Then the paralysis would set in. My body would be locked in place, and no matter how desperately I wanted to scream, no sound would come out. The entity would also never speak, but its presence alone was enough to fill the room with suffocating dread. It would stand over me, sometimes sleep next to me, moving closer, and I knew in my bones that it was feeding off my fear. A lot of survivors describe their sleep paralysis figures as taking on familiar forms, distorted versions of the narcissist looming over them just as the narcissist did in waking life. Why would that be if these entities had no connection with the narcissist? Think about that and just reflect. Narcissists are known for their parasitic nature, aren't they? They drain their victims of energy, feeding off their pain, the control they create, and submission. The demonic entities that live in them do the same thing. This is spiritual abuse, spiritual warfare that I'm talking about. When this happens, you feel like your soul is being consumed by the narcissist demon. And once they're done, you're left feeling hollow and depleted, really tired. A lot of survivors also have reported that their sleep paralysis intensified when they were in close proximity to the narcissist or when they were undergoing extreme emotional distress. It's as if these dark presences thrive in the same way narcissists do, through the siphoning of energy, through fear, through control. If sleep paralysis is both a trauma response and a potential encounter with malevolent entities, then how does one escape it? What do you do with it? The first step is to heal your nervous system. This involves breaking out of the hypervigilant state and teaching the body that it is safe to rest. You must engage in deep nervous system regulation work. I cannot emphasize it enough. You can do somatic therapy to release stored trauma. You can do breath work and meditation to calm the fight or flight response. You can use weighted blankets and grounding techniques to create a sense of safety before going to sleep. You must avoid emotional triggers before bed to prevent heightened stress levels at night. The second thing is spiritual protection. If you believe in the presence of negative entities, basically demons, spiritual protection is crucial. Some of the methods that I personally used are, number one, cleansing rituals such as burning sage or using protective crystals, prayer or affirmations before sleep to set an energetic boundary with them, visualizing protective light surrounding your body while you are sleeping, calling upon spiritual guides, anything that you believe in for protection, that is a must. Ultimately, the key to overcoming sleep paralysis induced by narcissistic abuse trauma and the demonic entities is reclaiming your power. These entities thrive on fear, as I already described. The moment you recognize your worth, you weaken their hold. You must take back control of your body, your mind, and your spirit to break free. For years, I lived in fear of the entity that visited me in the night. But once I began healing from my childhood trauma, the encounter stopped all of a sudden. The suffocating dread lifted. My body learned that it was safe, and with that, the entity lost its grip. The most important step was full on no contact. That is what helped me cut the energetic cord. There is a deep, unsettling link between narcissistic abuse and sleep paralysis, one that blends psychology and the paranormal. But one thing is certain: you are not powerless. We hold the ability to heal, to fight back, and to reclaim our nights from the shadows. With that, let's bring this episode to an end. Let me know in the comments what your experiences have been. I will talk to you in the next one. Until then, as always, let the healing begin and continue.